and I just got my first promotion. I got my first new salary on my new promotion, and I was like, woo, I'm gonna make this piston that no one knows about. It's gonna be great.
We sacrificed time and money and a lot of stress to keep that going.
Obviously, I worked for a retailer that we will not say worked for, still own 30%.
Do not make it this spec. We're putting the parts in the bin.
Welcome to the stream, everyone. I am here with Ant and Aaron from Rogueworx. I imagine a few of you already know who these guys are, but for those that don't, introduce yourselves. Who are you, and what is Rogueworx? Don't know if you want to. Ant, do you want to go first?
Yeah. We're a two-man band that got fed up with poor quality parts and decided to go for it ourselves. That's pretty much the basic story of Rogueworx.
I know the guys from reaching out on Instagram when I picked up a couple of KCO2s. I say a couple, I think I got like 5. And they were just releasing some of their V6 at the time, V9. They were early. They were relatively early. Pistons for the KCO2 because there wasn't a huge amount in Europe, and the stuff that I'd certainly had in some of the KCO2s that I bought wasn't the best, and the one that was the best ended up being an early prototype from these guys. So that's how I know them. But looking at the chat, everybody who's watching knows who you guys are. Like, you are the kings of the KCO2. That's why the stream's called Kings. Everyone knows who you are. You are the guys that everyone talks to. So before I start asking questions, because I can imagine we're going to get bombarded, how long's Rogueworx been around? Like, how did you two meet and sort of get together and start it?
I'll take that one. Yeah, me and Anthony actually were on the same airsoft team for a few years, since 2013, and we became friends through a mutual friend, Jason. And I think around 2014, I bought my first KCO2, and around 2016, we kind of started toying with ideas of how to improve the parts. And then Anthony was like, why don't we actually turn this into a business? So I'd say Rogueworx has existed since about 2016, but we didn't become a limited company till 2019. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think we started chatting back end of 2018, 2019, when you sort of started really popping up everywhere for KCO2 stuff. So
yeah, well, we kind of just wanted to make our own stuff better, and it was just one of those. I'd got some 3D printing experience from my time at JAG, and we just basically sat in a room and just went, how can we make this better? We're fed up, and it just developed into a business from there. We had the idea, and we just sat there scratching our heads onto how we could actually make this viable. And I mean, how long, Aaron? Was it about 6 months just from an idea to even getting close to a first prototype of just us chatting, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. The bolt carrier, before it actually got released, we got as far as version 11, I think the first bolt carrier was, and we're up to version 14 now. So it's been a few years. Version 13 was the first one that we started selling. That was the one that put in sort of all the time, and then we made a few tweaks for version 14.
I think the one I reviewed was one of your first V12s, and you guys kindly engraved it for me. It's actually still on the blog now. Like, I still get questions about it, and I'm just like, I've taken them apart a few times, but just go to these guys. Like, there's a reason all the content ends with, if you want to know more, just ask these guys. Just go there. So parts-wise, obviously you guys have got, when we started speaking, I think, from memory, because I remember I bought a load of your first parts off you, you originally had the bolt carrier, piston, handle, and is it the Teflon or Derlin pins, buffer pins?
Yeah. We had the mag release as well. So that was way back in 2017.
Yeah, that's the Sabre. Is it the Sabre mag release?
Yeah. The long curved one. Yeah, that was all we had for a while back in 2017.
So I've got some pictures of this. Obviously, we already know what we're going to talk about, but you guys watching don't, and we've got lovely pictures. So let me remember how I So I'm guessing these are some early parts.
Stainless
No,
steel
actually.
kit.
Yeah, they're the stainless steel special editions. They were only a few months ago. See how they've all got individual serial numbers on?
Oh yeah, I assumed they were just unfinished because obviously that's how we get our stuff from the factory, generally
No.
speaking. But they look
They're some of
nice.
they're some of the more desirable ones actually. The limited edition stainless steels, and you can see that bolt carrier's got the little kicker on the back of it there. That means it's a version 14.
Okay, and then this is obviously a very recognizable image. We know what these are.
Yeah, that's the V2 pistons, the gold ones, first batch that we did. So again, that's fairly recent. We did the pistons for a very long time. Everybody knows, everyone's heard of the Kevin Forney pistons, you know.
Yeah, when I got my original KCO2s, I think I asked you, like, guys, obviously, what is this? And you were like, oh yeah, that's so and so's piston.
Yeah, he used to batch make them in small batches on his dad's lathe when he was back from college at holidays. So they were very few and far between, and they were highly sought after. But with the demand, we went to him and came up with a deal to manufacture them using his design. There we are.
Yeah, he made them out of some very interesting materials like cold rolled steel, stainless steel. I think he even did some titanium ones at one point. But again, they were all just like batch made, so 20 at a time, and the demand was so high, Kevin just couldn't keep up. So he was quite happy to sort of license the design out to us, and we just made the Kevin Forney pistons as the RWKF, so Rogueworx Kevin Forney piston, for quite a few years, about 5 years actually. I think we were just churning out just his unchanged design, but CNC manufactured instead of done by hand on a lathe.
Yeah, it's good. It's great when people do come up with something. Like, this is going to bring me onto a topic that I'll leave right to the end because I'm personally interested in getting your view on it. But I think when people do see a platform and there's not a lot for it, and they go, well, actually, I can make something. Like, I know how to use the lathe, or I've got access to this. And then to have something that draws the attention of you guys, and then you guys have the facilities or contacts to be able to do it. And then, yeah, for him to have something that's out there, like, no one who's probably going to get had a KCO2 in the last 5 years and will probably get one in the next 5 years, will probably not know of or end up purchasing a piston. Like, for you guys, that's got to be one of your popular products.
Yeah, piston and bolt carrier is pretty much the basics for the KCO2, just because the standard bolt carrier is just pot metal. It just smashes itself to pieces after a while. If you run it on any sort of high power gas, like CO2, it'll just break on your first game. Just have pieces of your bolt carrier just falling out your gun. And the standard piston in the KCO2 is just a cup seal that is so bad you can see daylight around the edges of it. So the bolt carrying pistons really.
You say it's bad. That's just how they check things fit. I can see past it. That'll go in. Be fine.
It's not just the standard ones. Even the RA Tech ones, it was the same design. It was just a different material, so it still had the same flaws, the same room for improvement. And it's not just changing the material. The amount of the angles of the ramps, the pickup ramps, and things like that all changed in the bolt just to make it run better, to reduce shock, all that went into it. Whereas everyone else over the years has just used the standard design and just changed it into a different material or tweaked it just one little bit. So that's why we go with the bolt and piston as our starter. People will come up and say, what can we do? How can we have this gun that shoots better? And the first thing we'll do before we try and sell them anything is just be honest with them and say, bolt and piston. Your bolt and piston, then come back, work out what kind of player you are, what you're wanting out of it, because there's so many options, but that is your foundation to any build.
Yeah, it's the same with snipers. Like, you get like a VSR 10. The first thing you need to do, depending on how you're going to play, is the trigger, because that's the thing that fails. The 45-degree system, hard bolt pull, it's just not a very good design. But funny enough, I think the things that I bought off you first were the piston and the bolt carrier, and I think I got the pins as well. But I should know that. I should have double checked my blog beforehand, shouldn't I? But I know I got that, and then the thing that I got,
the little nylon pins,
yeah, the thing that I got that changed the game for me was the when obviously we were talking about the buckings, and then you guys let slip that you had the Genesis kit, and yeah, and then I ended up with the one that, as you when we were speaking the other day, it's just still floating around, the prototype hand engraved one.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I think that's
that
the
really was the game changer for us. That was 2018, the Genesis kit, because as anyone who's opened up a KCO2 knows, they use a proprietary nozzle, hot rubber, and hop unit for just that only fits the KCO2. So you really only had like 2 hot rubber options, and you had to have a barrel that was specifically KC cut with a really small unbridged window at the back. It's about half the size of a VSR hop window. So what kind of prompted us for that for a long time with the KCO2, the standard kind of hot rubber and barrel upgrades was an FE70, so a Future Energy 70-degree hot rubber, and then you put an RA Tech KCO2 barrel in it. And I think it must have been around 2018. Future Energy just I think the company folded or they discontinued it or something. But basically, you couldn't get the best hot rubber for the KCO2 anymore. They just became like unicorns. You couldn't find these hot rubbers anymore. So all we had was the few lower quality options, and that really kind of pushed us on to doing the Genesis kit. It was an idea I'd been thinking about for a few years, but I knew it was going to be a big design challenge.
Pull the picture up for the people watching who might not have seen a Genesis kit. So there's the fancy exploded drawing of it all.
So yeah, we knew that to make it fit VSR hot rubbers, we were going to have to not only change the hop unit, we're going to have to change the nozzle as well, and that was like a big sort of manufacturing and design challenge in itself, because like it's how thin the nozzle walls are on like a plastic cylinder. So I think it was like less than a millimeter thick for most of it. So that was a manufacturing challenge in itself, to find like a factory that had good enough quality control to produce them. And obviously you helped out a lot at the time, I think, with figuring out how long the nozzle should be to get like the right sort of BB placement inside the hot rubber, because at the time you were working on the flamingos as well, so know all about
that was a while ago.
Yeah, we had some of the prototypes. You said the other day the weird little pastel coloured flamingos.
They're originally like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a muted pink pastel. They were fine for what they were. They worked, but as soon as I had them for a long time, again, same as what you guys are doing, there's a reason like yourselves and me are on like gen something of something, because having something that's working is great. So that's better when you make that great thing and then make it better with another generation. Or I don't know whether you guys ever get this, but me and Steve from Hadron, we talk about designs quite a lot, and there's a few other designers, but me and him spend a lot of time talking, and we have this thing called design blind, where you'll stare at your own design for so long and it'll be good and you'll get it working, and then someone else will come along and be like, shouldn't that have a chamfer on it? And you're like, fuck, damn it. And like all your issues are because of like a small chamfer, or like wall thickness on buckings is a pain in the ass. Like I've been working on an AG one for ages, and I've got so many generations of it knocking around that people have had, and it's just feed lip, it's like 0.1 mil, things like that. So that's on one item for you guys doing that. I remember some of the conversations we had about factories and the nozzle length and buckings and how it should seal in the feed lips, because obviously there's so many buckings for the VSR, and they're either different because of the QC on some brands isn't as good, or some brands have their version of a gun that exists that they've tweaked the nozzle for, like modified buckings fit a VSR, but they designed it for a very small nozzle. Yeah. So I imagine that'd be like a pain in your nozzle, because the feed lips are like 0.8 mil tighter than every other VSR bucking, if not more.
We also had another thing going on with this, is that I even knew what a KCO2 was. I had a friend who got one, and he was telling me how the community were developing a VSR conversion kit. So it was a shape plate printed one that used the standard nozzle, and it basically just used brute force and ignorance to make it work.
It thumbed it in. It's just
that's
what it did.
Then there was another company that did a hop unit and it didn't use a nozzle. So we there was people out there that swore by these, and some people that had really bad issues with them. We weren't just coming from scratch. We were also having to kind of like take the feedback from these ones that were out there and try and break them down as well to work out what was going on. So it wasn't as simple as we've got an idea, let's go. We also had to win people over and actually show them like this is what it's meant, this is what it should be if you're buying a product.
Yep.
So yeah, that made it interesting.
I think that's like I watch everything. Like obviously before going off and doing a sniper mechanic on my own again, because I started on my own. Obviously I worked for a retailer that we will not say worked for, still own 30% of a particular retailer that we won't go into. And from old jobs, I watch everything, like brands that interest me, people that are doing things that I find interesting. And I think you are probably, and I'm not just saying this on stream, like if you were shit, I'd tell you shit. I think you both know me well enough. I don't mince my words. But I generally think out of all the brands that exist, you are probably one of the most community driven in terms of if you think your part's great, fine. But if your community is not happy with it, you seem to address it, talk about it. If people have issues, you don't just say, like, there's another brand out there, something doesn't work, you're shit and you didn't put it together right. I've seen you guys reply, and if you're not replying, your community's doing it for you. Oh yeah, you've got this, yep, you need to lube it, you need to rack it a few times, make sure your spring's not fell out, make sure this is aligned, and like generally help. There's other brands and other groups and just other platforms like the VSR, you'll go on there, oh, I've just bought a VSR and I've bought this new piston. If it was your community, they'd go on and say, oh, you've bought that piston, don't worry, that only works with this trigger, this is what you need.
Yeah.
Other groups, they're like, you're an idiot, why'd you buy it?
With that, we might own the company, but those players, those owners of our parts, are actually almost part of the company because we developed this with a batch of like 20 bolts to begin with. It was pre-orders and everything was fed back, and we got people involved. And although we're doing the work and we're putting the money up front, those people are actually a big part of the company to us. So we've had people wanting to buy into the company, customers, can I buy shares? When are you going to float it and all this? But they are a big part of it, and we wouldn't be here without them because we're small, but we're specialised. But it's that community that keep us going, and so we try to do everything. And our motto is, well, we've got two airsoft engineered, and we're players first, and that's how we'll always be. We want to grow for the players, not just for ourselves. Because if we want to make big money, just churn out what we call the magpie effect, where it's shiny and we want it. So we could make quick money very easily, but we don't want to do that. We want to provide quality products for people and make sure that they actually enjoy, because they're going to give us their hard-earned money, especially with how things have been over the last few years. That means a lot. We want them to have the best experience that they can.
Yeah, and I remember with the... Oh, sorry, go on.
It sounds selfish, but what Ant said about being players first, it really helps us sort of choose which products we're going to make, because I'm kind of designing them for myself, really. You know, it's like it's the bits that I want to put in my guns, because if this doesn't work properly, then I want to make it better because I want to use it in my own gun. I'm not doing it because I want to make money. It just happens that everybody else wants the stuff that I make for myself as well. You know? Yeah,
and you know, I have me and Steve. I don't know if you do you guys know Steve? Steve Bayless from Hadron?
I know the name, but
I've not met him.
Oh, he's really... I nearly sold him one of my mini KCO2s because he saw it at, I think I was at ASGB, and I brought it with me. It was the plain black one, the one that had the stock, but it had all your stuff in it, so it was like a little bit of a deceiving one. Yeah, but me and him will say the same thing. Like, I predominantly made my first Wasp before the VSR. My bucking was a VSR bucking because that's my rifle. I have many rifles dotted everywhere, but that was my rifle. So that was the one that I needed a piston for, and I wanted it to be quiet and have these features. So that's the one I did. And then I got an SRS. I physically owned it, used it, and thought, I want this piston in this now. And that's happened with all my parts. Like now I've got AGs, looking at AG bucking. Now I've got a TAC over there, TAC Wasp, same thing. It's like you, I could probably sit here and design 30 products and go, I could probably just sell them, license match someone and not work again. But they don't interest me. I wouldn't be proud of them. They'd just be something I make because I could. Whereas, and it shows, even simple things like your branding, like you could just make everything shiny and silver like other companies do, or just go all black, whereas your stuff isn't just pretty because it looks pretty. Like, you've color coded stuff. Like, there's a reason that those, like in that picture I've got up now, the Genesis kit, the flow valves, they're a color so that you can help someone quickly on a group or your community cam by going, you want to use the green because da da da, or the red
That's
because
something
da
we're
da
actually
da.
dealing with at the minute. If we see the free hotkeys, our anodizers are really struggling to anodize them. It's costing us a fortune because it takes enough for 600 of those is enough for all the thousands of parts that we sent. The same amount of time to do 600 of those as the other thousands of parts. So it's costing us money. The splash ones, they cost us nearly triple what a normal anodizing does. We do that because it's what we want, and it's like that. They say it's identification, and we're going through that process at the minute where we're even on about potentially going down to the anodizers to work out the process. That's a whole day where we've got to take out of work to go down there and do all that. But because we want that for the customers, we want things to be best that we can. And yeah, but I've got to say that our anodizers are absolutely fantastic. They've supported us since day one, and they are really, really good. And yeah, we've got such a good relationship with them. So that a lot of that is down to them as well. If they didn't help us the way they do, we wouldn't have that range of options or that ability to do the color coding.
Yeah, you certainly have the advantage there. Like, some of your, let me try and find something fancy picture wise. I mean, all your stuff's fancy, but well, the next project that I haven't owned yet, but I'd like, and I'm not going to bring this up again because me and Aaron will have a debate about this. But these bad boys, these are obviously lovely. I'm guessing, is this a prototype or a limited edition one? It doesn't have the fanciness of the others.
That was the first one we did. That's the brass one, which is on the table behind me over here.
The one we were looking at the other night.
Yeah, that's
okay.
the very first underlever we had done.
And then I'm guessing that's another early proto made in aluminium.
Yeah, that one's for the Hogue overmold stock. So after the first brass one that we did, that was like a proof of concept. We got 9 prototypes made.
Wait, I just want to correct you on something, Aaron. Why did you choose brass? Because we spoke the other day, and Ant back up here. There was a reason you chose brass, wasn't there?
Well, I mean, it's just a bit steampunk for me, but why? Why do you think we chose brass?
That was why, wasn't it? Because you wanted brass. Like, we were literally on the street the other day, and you were like, "I just wanted it brass for me." Yeah. It just happened to be, it's not a massively expensive material to use for prototypes.
Well, it's certainly, having just one of them made it expensive, even if it is a cheaper material. But nobody else is having a brass one. That's mine.
There you go. And then, see, this is going back to your anodizing.
Yeah.
You seem to be able to, and obviously I'm guessing this is the benefit of, having a good working relationship with your factories. And obviously we have relationships with particular factories, obviously, that we talk about and stuff. And I think with that factory, the same applies. Like, if you have a good relationship with them, you can get them to do stuff they might not otherwise do. And you guys, anodizing, like, obviously you got me my one with a logo on it. I've seen the blood splatter ones. You've got this one. You've got about 1,000 designs, and every time you do a batch, people can get limited edition ones. And I think, and did you do a poll for one of your recent ones where you asked? Yeah.
We were trying to standardize some of our colors, so try and get the golds, the bronzes, and stuff. We sometimes find there's a bit of variation between anodizing batches, so we ran a poll to see which shade of brass people actually want, not brass, bronze, sorry. See which shade they actually preferred. So we gave them like 4 options. I think over 200 people voted in the end. We just gave them sample pictures of different shades, and they're the actual pictures that we send to the anodizing place now, so that we can try and get more consistent shades between the batches. Yeah,
it's good. And I think people like it because obviously you can get an underlever for whatever stock you've got, because obviously you made, I followed this, you made quite a variety, but your anodizing is, people can really get something that they can brag about and show it off, right? Like, that's your marketing there, is almost people's ability to personalize what they want to a degree.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
anodizing
mean,
place hates
oh,
us for
sorry.
that. We've got like 12 different colors and patterns, and then we send them like 2,500 parts and in like a dozen different designs. So you've got a dozen designs, a dozen different colors and patterns, and we have to send them a chart with how many of each thing we want in how many of different designs. It drives them mad.
The Anodizers are old school British company that are very hands-on. They're small. They do everything themselves. The director is involved, and he's actually anodizing as well. And they know their stuff. But we'll get to that point one day where we're going to grow too much that we can offer all of this. And I think we're already getting to the stage where we put them under a lot of stress when we send this stuff through. But every time they work their asses off and they send us amazing results. And the relationship with them, I've known them since before Rogueworx, and we've had a really good relationship with them.
Sorry about that. My girlfriend's just got home and I could hear my dog just going at the door.
So yeah, we've worked with them really, really well, and they've put so much time and effort into helping us. And we wouldn't be where we are without them today. So big shout out to Acorn Plating, to be honest. And anyone needs anodizing, go see them. They're fantastic.
Yeah, so you had a picture up earlier, Dan, of the Galaxy pattern bolt carriers. It was a purple and blue fade with silver splatter.
This
That
one.
Yeah. So occasionally we get a few extra parts in our batches that we don't need, that we haven't necessarily accounted for in the chart of like our color distributions. So we'll literally put surprise us on the anodizing order with like just 2 or 3 extra parts. And in this particular batch there were 3 extra V14 bolt carriers, and we just said like show us what you can do, like surprise me. And they came back with this. So this is like, as far as anodizing goes, this is like masterclass.
It looks good.
A 2-color fade with a splatter over the top. So he'll have hand dipped that and then slowly drawn the part out of the different colored chemical vats to achieve that fade from one color to another. It's so there are only 3 of those, and they're basically museum pieces now. They sold out in less than 60 seconds. All 3 of those went when we launched that batch, and the people that bought them have not put them in their guns. They're just keeping them because they're true one-offs. We will never replicate that pattern.
So this goes back to I think you're at a stage where you've obviously got big enough that you're able to obviously have a career out of this and go to factories with volumes you need to get things made, but still small enough that you're engaged with your community. And I think because you've been able to keep that engagement and support with the customers, and as you said earlier, and about them feeling like they're part of the company, I think people aren't so much buying that because it looks cool as they are buying a bit of your history. Because we're going to speak about this on the stream tonight, and then this will fade into the ether, and in years to come people will be like, do you remember when there were those Galaxy ones? Yeah, isn't there a video of that somewhere? And it'll be us bumbling on the stream talking about it.
It is a double-edged sword, really, because we are growing, but we sacrifice time and money and a lot of stress to keep that going. Whereas it was a lot easier when we had batches of 20 bolts to customize them and get them custom lasered and things like that. But we were actually sacrificing time, money, and stress to keep that, because our customers mean so much to us. Because we still feel like we're not that big. We still feel like we're just these 2 guys that like to tinker, and it's only realizations. Our families have only just started realizing that when we've got, which we're going to later, the CNC machine, $100 grand CNC machine, everything, that actually this is quite serious now, because we still feel like we have since the start, really. But we are growing, and so we've had to do a bit of standardization and analyzing and things like that, because we've got to make some changes eventually, but we don't want to. We want to keep it as much as we have been.
It gets to that stage. Funny, my partner's in the similar stage where she's growing this company and she's got a couple of people working for her, and she does a lot of stuff. But like you, it's going to get to the point of your company's very early on. Your company can scale, right? if you want to make more money, you want to make more parts, you personally can just put the time and the effort in. But your amount of time and energy and mental capacity is finite, right? So there will be a point of where you're either going to have to employ other people to help you with some processes or standardize stuff. But the standardizing is fine. Like, if that's going to help you with costs and make things sustainable and avoid all the price increases that obviously people are facing, I think the community would appreciate it. And so long as, and I can see the comments, like I'm talking to you, obviously looking at you guys on the camera, and every now and then I just see, obviously Sostridge pops up quite frequently, and and something about the wheel, which I'll ask you guys to elaborate on later. But people are just constantly just saying custom. I'm here for something custom. I want something custom. So I think so long as you do your limited runs and your batches, and you have like that interaction where you give people an input on your next projects, I think you'll do all right. I don't think people will mind that you might say, okay, this next 100 batch of this is going to be just this color. If you go, but the next product will be limited edition, this brass, if Aaron has his way.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be.
We have talked about getting a fiber laser and doing customization, but again, we're looking for £5,000, which that's a good new product development. That covers £5,000 is our prototypes and our time into potentially a new product, which it's good being able to offer that customization, but then your time's taken up, and that's potentially another product that we might not be able to get out as quick. So we're always balancing. As we grow, we reinvest a lot of money just to grow. I mean, we started off with £500 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've just reinvested. And to be honest, we might take some money out of the business in dividends, but it's not even minimum wage. It's like paper round money. So especially for Aaron, who spends so much time behind the scenes in the matrix, as we say. But that's a balance as well of growth versus ourselves, and we haven't really had any time or money for ourselves out of it because we just keep going.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, I think we were talking about it off stream the other day, but the money side of things, like people think, oh, you're selling a piston for X amount, or you're selling a bolt for X amount, and they think, oh, well, you must be making loads of money. And like, obviously price increases, we spoke about factories a couple of weeks ago and price increases and things like that. And I think the problem that people, obviously it'd be lovely to be able to talk about business openly, right? And be like, oh, I make 100 of these, this is what I'm going to make, so when you buy it for that, this is what I get. I think it's fair. But people just don't understand it, and people are obviously funny with money and profit and things. But I think going back to that, you started with £500 thing. I think my first prototype from the particular factory that we know and love was about 400 quid. And I remember I was still working at banking in Amex, and I just got my first promotion. I got my first new salary on my new promotion, and I was like, woo, I'm going to make this piston that no one knows about. It's going to be great. And then it was like 400 quid, and it was shit. I completely fucked up the design. Like, it was just, I might as well just taken the money and thrown it out the window, because I was sketching it and then getting someone else to CAD it for me. And obviously tolerance, I didn't really know enough. And now I think, Jesus, I have probably wasted more money in that first year on prototypes than I've made in profit in the preceding 18 months of actually having a product out there to sell.
Yeah, but you say it as a waste, but
it's a learning curve.
You learn from it, yes. And I think that's what people don't get, is that everything that we're doing, because we're not designers, we're players that have learned how to design and have got a take on things. It's not what we don't do this for full-time jobs. You're in banking, I'm an engineering teacher, but I'm an aeronautical. Aaron's an electronics whiz that designs engine components and stuff. We're not these CNC designers and or CAD designers and CNC people.
I'm getting there.
Normal people.
I've been doing it for a few years now. I'm getting pretty good.
You're getting there, but it's not what you've got your degree in. It's not what you've trained in.
I probably we should have pointed this out in the introductions at the start. We haven't just naturally slipped into doing all these dozens of products and stuff. Me and Anthony are both Rolls-Royce trained. Well, Anthony's got a bit of military background as well, but I'm a Rolls-Royce trained engineer, though it's specifically in electronics, but engineering's still the same. So, it's we did have a bit of an advantage to begin with when we started doing this, just because we look at something in a gun that's like maybe not working as well as it could, and my brain just starts pulling it apart before I've even picked up the tool. So it's not we didn't start from absolute zero. But,
no, we had something to build on, but it's not our bread and butter. We've earned that.
Yeah, I think with the design thing, a lot of people, it's become so accessible now that I'm not a designer. I'm not a creative. I've now and later in life, like if I'd have known that I could design when I was 18, I'd have spent a lot less time doing other shit. But obviously with my very first Wasp, that was like a sketch. I just sketched out an idea. I had a friend who was a machinist, went back and forth, thought I'd got it right. He machined it. And as a machinist, knew what the tolerances were, gave me a working prototype. And then I was like, oh, I'll go to the factory with my sketches that were clearly good enough for him to go and machine something with. And then obviously I get something that doesn't work. And now, obviously, I spend as much time designing for others and consulting on others' designs than I do for myself. And I've never learned it. Like, I'm just self-taught. And when I got made redundant from Amex, I had a lot of free time. So I just taught myself and I sort of fell into it. And then I've spoke to you guys about stuff. I speak to other designers, and some of us use the same software. Some others use different software. Like, you could give all of us the same part and say, oh, design that and make one change. And we'd all do it differently. Like, you would go, I'm going to do it via sketch and I'll do this, this, and this. And others are like, no, I'm going to build it as if it was 3D. And others will literally sketch it and then do it both ways. So, and again, that's something that people don't see. Like, people just see 3D printed stuff and think, oh, I can design. Do you know what tolerances are? Do you know
we
what?
Actually sent it to the factory as an STL. Actually sent an STL to them.
Yeah.
And they came back and went, that's going to be thousands of pounds. And then we had to redraw it and learn how to do all that. So that was a learning curve.
I've got one of them here. Version 11 printed bolt carrier. So that's 7 years old now. That's one of our first prototypes. I've got a pile of them here.
See, I did obviously. I imagine that. Well, we already know the same factory, but for ages I was happy doing the designing, like sitting in the software, doing all of that, and then obviously sending over the step file or various step files to how you built it. And then I got caught out one day by Kai. No one knows who the factory is. Kai, and I can't remember what I was designing. It was something a bit more complicated that I've only finished after 2 years. I've only just finished it, and it's in 2 rifles at the moment. And sent the file over, and he was like, "Oh yeah, can you provide the CAD drawings?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, can you draw it?" And I was like, "I have drawn it, and then I've made you a file. What do you want from me?" And he's like, "Oh no, we need actual drawings with all your thread pitches and everything." And I was like, "Oh fuck's sake! I'll see you in a week. Go off and learn how to bloody draw it all."
Technical drawings.
Yeah. Not a fan.
That's a huge step. That's because nobody who designs stuff for STLs just to be printed, they don't have a clue what a technical drawing is.
No, yeah, it takes me as long, not so much now, but originally I'd spend like 50 hours designing a part, like physically on the computer designing it, and then I'd spend 10 phone calls with Hadron and another 50 hours just drawing it, so I can look at it and then be like, why did that take so long? Like, that is life I'm never getting back. But when you get the hang of it, it's not so bad, and some factories obviously need it, others don't. But then if they don't ask for it, I'm always like, why haven't you asked? You're too confident and I don't trust you.
Yeah, we tend to always pull out like any specific tolerances, or if there's something that doesn't show up very well in the model, we'll pull it out in the technical drawing and say, like, this hole just here, if this is not within this tolerance, the parts are trash. So that's why it's got a big red circle around this particular number on the drawing. If you do not make it this spec, we're putting the parts in the bin and you're giving us our money back. So we find that's a very useful point of communication, rather than just sending them the sending them the model just ice cold with no explanation to it.
Yeah, the comments thing, I got caught out. I drew something, as in, like, obviously on Fusion I was using at the time, with a half thread hole. So it was like a 7mm hole with an M7 thread that was only meant to be threaded halfway. The step file is threaded halfway. My email specified halfway. And then I get it, and it's threaded the whole way. So the stopper that I designed to sit inside obviously didn't fit. So I went back, and then I did the drawing. And I thought I was going to try another factory because their pricing seemed competitive. So I went to this factory, sent them the drawing this time, highlighted it, and same as you, I was like, right, this hole is this tolerance. If it's bigger than this or what smaller than that, it won't work. And this only needs to be half threaded. So I send it. They send me some pictures. Looks good. It turns up. They've included drawings where they've made annotations. Great. Did they thread the whole fucking hole? Yeah. And then I have to wait another 2 weeks for that factory to do it. And I'm like, you sent me the drawing that you clearly looked at and went, have we done that? No? Yes. And you're like, ah. But then sometimes they just knock it out of the park. Like I've been surprised where I've sent something off and I've been like, oh, I don't even know if that's the tolerances are doable on that particular machining process or with that particular material. And then you must have it where you sort of take a gamble and think, I'll get this one prototyped because I'm pretty sure like it'll work. And then you get something back and you're like, yeah, worth it, works.
Yeah, there's very few of our parts where it's on version 1 when it goes to production, and it's funny you've got the rail up on screen. That was one of those cases. So, sorry, I need to address something I've seen in comments a few minutes ago on the chat. We do need to publicly apologise to Bronze Gang. We made our first batch of V14 bolt carriers. We let the community decide the numbers distribution for how many of each anodizing colour we got made. And a certain person, not me, one of the community members, left bronze off the chart, and I didn't notice, and we sent it to be anodized according to the community voted color distribution, and completely forgot bronze entirely. And there were several people who have guns that are entirely covered in our bronze part, and they were like, "What the hell? Where's the stuff?" So they've been owed a public apology for that. But anyway, back to the rail.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We talked about before how with the Kevin Forney piston, where the community got involved, like that was like an existing design that we sort of licensed out from Kevin, and we've got a few products where we've done that now, where they've started off as like a community idea, and instead of just completely pilfering their idea and just going off and making it because we can. We think, it'd be so easy to do that because that's what a lot of airsoft manufacturers do. They think, oh, that's a good idea. We'll just make that and steal their idea because, it's not patented or copyrighted or anything. But the rail that you've got on screen, the guillotine rail, that started off as somebody else's idea. And we said, like, if you want to try and get it made, then like, and they were like, yeah, we'll give it a shot, like on our own. And as we were just discussing, they had a good attempt. Their rail looked the same as like the rail, or mostly the same as what we've got on screen, but they had no idea about like tolerances or anything, and they weren't aware that the shape of a Picatinny rail is actually like a standardized spec that's publicly available, like Stanag, whatever it is.
Yeah, you've got the Picatinny like 19 whatever, which is one spec, which is where it's angled on top and bottom. So your rail obviously has the flat going all the way along with no cutouts, and then there's the modern one where the gaps between each segment are also cut out, isn't there?
Yeah. So we've got a few projects like this now where instead of just straight up stealing their idea, we've kind of licensed it out. So he ended up sending us his design, and it was
as an
attempt,
STL.
But, yeah.
Okay.
With no technical drawing or anything, which is fairly important for a rail, and we ended up redrawing the whole thing from scratch and kind of making it into our own design. With like integrated mounting points for like Glock sights and stuff, like iron sights.
Well, and from looking at it, it's designed to take your Genesis Hot Wheel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if my eyes don't deceive me, is there another screw towards, I don't know which way that is.
They're just the mounting screws to attach it to the receiver, but yeah. So
I was going to say, it looked like you had a click adjust in there, or a space for a click adjust under the wheel.
Yeah, there's a hole for the click adjuster to go through. Yeah, so you've got the detent for the wheel, but
that's the word I was looking for, detent.
Yeah, so we still pay like I think it's 10% or 15% back to the original guy who came up with that idea, even though we're not using anything close to what his original design was. And you know, we've got 3 or 4 of our products that are like that now, where we give credit back to the original person who came up with the idea. We've got the Proj nut, which is the little brass thing that screws into.
Yep, I've got that. You are talking about that?
Yeah, the little brass thing at the bottom looks like a plumbing fitting. Came up with it.
Yep.
Is a plumber.
Chris Streeter's chatting about that, saying it's a technical drawing on a napkin, which is where a few of our designs start.
Sometimes it is. You're just in the pub bouncing an idea, and all of a sudden, like, you're there, like, oh, actually, what about if we, like, yeah, and I think it's great, like, especially if you've got like-minded people, like other technical people that you can talk to. In fact, I want to pick your brains or something. I'll ask you off screen. I like this. I need to know how to do this.
What, an exploded drawing?
Yeah, I can do exploded drawings, but they're never as aligned and smooth looking as that. Like, I'll have like, let's say hypothetically I'm working on a VSR hop unit. Let's hypothetically say that everything explodes one way.
Assemblies?
It does, but you obviously have to align your axes and things. So like, this hop unit will come apart in a linear motion fine, and all the segments will come apart fine. And there might be like a nub or a screw, and it'll go, I want to go that way instead of up. Because I've never really done any of this fancy stuff. I just get it made and then take a picture, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. That'll work. Whereas I like this sort of stuff. And I remember when you first did this, I was like, I like it.
Kids these days.
So
I use SolidWorks, so I don't know what problems you guys have got in Fusion.
SolidWorks, there's no words. There are no words. Yeah, I'll judge you off, Strew. So we've talked about the KCO2. We've spoken about the company.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken about these. We'll bring those up in a minute, though. People with quick eyes would have just seen that. But because I don't know what that is, but it intrigues me. So we'll talk about these little things flashing around. But walk me through this. I'm sure there's a few eagle-eyed people out there that want to know what this is. You're breaking things.
No. We're trying to fix things. It feels like picking the dog that's been most beaten up at the shelter for rehoming. This does. So this is the GHK G5, which is going to be the next gun that Rogueworx doing parts for. We're finally looking further afield than just the KCO2. Despite everything behind me, although they've got half a dozen guns behind me, and they all look very different. Every single one is actually a KCO2, apart from the one G5 on the table over there. So we see a lot of potential in the G5. But obviously, as you've got on the screen now, its major flaw is that GHK, being the geniuses they are, stuffed a full-size like black gas blowback rifle bolt carrier assembly into an SMG, and didn't properly stress relief the design of the lower receiver, which is made out of plastic.
Maybe someone didn't send them technical drawings.
Well, I mean, when you open it up, it looks like there's a piece missing, if you ask me. It looks like they put the slots in for a buffer assembly and just forgot to flip and design the damn thing. Because these guns... I have actually seen a video where someone's firing one of these on CO2, and he has a head cam on, and on video, the back of the gun explodes off and the bolt carrier goes over his shoulder, like on camera. It's
but
quite
it was
spectacular.
5 minutes old as well.
I don't know.
I'm familiar with it. I bought one of these years ago when we speak the other day. And yeah, I think I only had it a week or so before I started seeing the hairline crack. Yeah, it is a common thing. So can you say much else about what you've got in the works? Is there anything in the background someone with an eagle eye might see? Or
before Aaron goes and brings the parts up, I've been kind of looking at this for a while Aaron's been in the KCO2 zone, and everyone's been going CNC lower, but won't look right. That's just like the fix everyone thinks of. Let's just make a CNC lower. It's going to be extortionate. It's going to be ugly because it wouldn't match. It's going to be heavy and all that kind of stuff. So I've spent the last year kind of slowly going over the gun and coming up with lists and basic concepts for products. But this one is very, very technical, but obvious. So I'll let Aaron carry on now because he's the brains behind it.
Yeah. So the problem is like everyone goes on about the epoxy mod for the G5s, just filling the back of the gun, just pouring Haraldite into it because that's obviously going to just use more glue. Surely that'll fix the problem. Not necessarily. And the problem is inside the gun, there's not a lot of space for any sort of reinforcement. We've seen people that have riveted plates to the outside of the gun as well.
I just want to read this comment to you quick, just because it tickled me. So you said, Ant just said about it wouldn't be cost effective. Someone commented saying, wouldn't look right or be cost effective, or wouldn't be effective. And then someone just said, neither are you.
Yeah, well, that's
tickled me. That did.
That's Badger. He's ever since I've known him, he takes a mick because he's ex-army and I'm ex-RAF, and he's jealous because I got 5-star hotels and he didn't work very hard at school. So leave it at that.
But yeah, that comment just tickled me. I can hear them now, just chanting, "Show us, show us." They're all just there, biting at the bit.
Dear. All right, I'm gonna have to take the headset off so I can roll far enough to grab the gun. Hang on.
Woo! 1 point for peer pressure.
Well, we've already had the heavy recoil gas blowback guy commenting on a picture that Aaron put up earlier with it on there, and he soon realised what it was and got very excited.
Yeah.
Have you got the nice picture where I arranged all of our products in a big grid and added a few to it that wondered if anyone had spot them, and someone noticed them straight away.
I'm going to be straight with you. No.
Oh, never
But
mind.
if it's in the folder, I can have a look. So while you talk about it, let me try and. Is it in the folder? Where I was getting?
Yeah, it's in the folder.
Does it have a name? Because you just called them all image.
Oh no, it's the one that's called Just Showing Off.
Just showing off. Where is it?
Anyway, while he's looking for that.
Yeah, you keep talking.
So the idea.
I'm just liking these comments. They're all starting to take the mick out of each other now.
Can you tell they're Scottish? Jesus.
We have a really good relationship with our customers. A lot of banter. I mean, 2 of them even came up to see me fight. I had a charity MMA fight, and they even came up across the country to watch. They honestly, we might have a laugh and a joke and wind each other up, but our customers are like family. Some of them now. Maybe the Uncle Knobhead type, but they're still family.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the.
We've even had they want to do a KCO2 meetup somewhere and call it Sausage Fest, so we can have a big weekend game.
There you go. I fixed it. I found an image. I've done my job.
There we are.
Bit of live editing there, nice.
On the fly. That's how I roll.
You ran out of buttons on that fancy stream grid selector thing you've
There's
got.
always more buttons. You just have to try harder. But yeah, so obviously this is walk us through it. It's a selection of parts, some new, some familiar.
Oh man, that was just like dumping as many part files into one screen as I could for that. So you can see the guillotine rail at the top, but the ones that are new are the 3 on the right. So they've got V4 on that part that's called the receiver cap, and then there's the big plate with RW on it. That's the buffer plate, and then the thing that says V9 on the bottom right. That's the main Zenith insert. So for the G5, the fix we're coming up with is called the Zenith kit. That's the 3-part kit, and I've got one of the prototypes here that we've made on our own CNC machine. That is I don't know, what would you call it? Skeletonized now. It's like a metal reinforcement that slots down inside the receiver. A brace?
Similar to a brace?
Anyway. So
it's a distribution system. Impact distribution system.
So we've got a G5 here with one of the other prototypes installed, so you can see how it fits in the back of the receiver here. So on the G5s, they usually break, they get the crack down here. So the main metal part, the main insert, is all about distributing the shock of the bolt carrier impact through, mainly through to the bottom part of the gun, so towards the grip. And there's a big bolt hole that goes through the top that actually connects it to the upper receiver of the gun via the other part that's on that picture. So we've only got a print of it at the minute. So this is called the receiver cap. Now that will... We need to do a separate video just to explain how all this works. But, so the receiver cap goes on the outside of the gun, like that. And you'll have a bolt that goes through there and actually ties it to the main insert inside the gun. So it allows us to distribute a lot of this shock from the bolt impact through to the upper as well. And there's another part to this kit, which is the buffer plate. So we're getting rid of the horrible plastic piece that's on the end of the guide rod as standard. So we've got the guide rod and, again, a printed prototype of it. But that will be either steel or aluminium plate, and we're going to have a nice thick sorbo pad on there as well to absorb a load of the impact. So we're just making like an internal reinforcement and shock distribution system for the G5. We're doing everything we can to either fill it with metal or replace it with shock absorbers or distribute the force to other parts of the gun, just trying to make it as strong as possible.
Quick one from me. Rather than sorbo, if you obviously I know you guys tried everything to get everything in the UK. There's a company that I've used for some stuff, and they are quite reasonable with laser cut and polyurethane, like an 80 Shore, which is quite obviously a good oil resistant, silicon resistant material, which might be another alternative to sorbothane, which seems to be very expensive at the moment.
Yeah,
I was looking for another
sorbo is like the go-to thing, because you can buy pre-cut sorbo
discs and things, yeah.
Which I've got one on a printed sample here, because what we're limited on is sort of linear space. There's only a 14mm gap between the back of the bolt carrier and where it reaches the plastic inside the receiver. So all the fanciness that we've got to cram in has got to fit in a 14mm gap. So we're going to have like 2mm part of the aluminium plate on the main insert, and then like a 6mm pad, then a 4mm aluminium plate, and then another rubber pad on the front of that, which I think adds up to 14. But
it's fine. Ant said about getting a fiber laser cutter earlier, so that would make cutting sorbothane really easy for you.
Yeah. Well, we just went with sorbo as like a test thing. We could just buy a pack of like 20 of these discs pre-cut, and they're even self-adhesive, so we can just stick them on. But we can play around with different shock-absorbing materials later on. But
yeah, certainly a good idea. As you said, it's a popular platform that never really got aftermarket support. Not in the internals way. There's a few little recoil springs and things, but
yeah, you can get a few bits, but it's Samoon, which is GHK, so it's the manufacturer providing aftermarket parts for it. So it's not really the same.
It's a shame because there is generally I was going to say they're a solid platform. They're a solid performer. They are not a solid platform.
They're not a solid platform. There's a lot of wiggle room. There's a lot of loose parts, but with this design that we've come up with, you will still get recoil. You will still feel it, but it's distributing it all evenly. Yes, you will lose some of that recoil, that impact, but you ain't gonna have a bolt nearly hitting you in the head or it cracking. So we've hopefully found that balance where people will still get that buzz out of using that gun, but they know that they're going to be able to use it more than once or twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is your kit going to match the same? Everyone's going to start getting annoyed with us now because we're going to go into geeky technical territory. Are you keeping the travel distance of the bolt the same, or by design are you inherently accidentally short stroking it?
No, it's going to be the same bolt.
You are going to keep it the same, because a short stroke kit, because there's a lot of children out there like to pull that trigger really fast.
Okay. So I guess it to a certain extent. I mean, so when I say there's a 14mm gap that we've got to fit everything into, the standard plastic buffer plate is like 10mm thick. So really, we're only losing about 4mm of bolt travel, because we can't go any more than that. Otherwise, the bolt won't lock back on empty. That's kind of the distance that we're using. So we've got the maximum amount of bolt travel, but there's also how far does it have to go back just for the bolt to lock back when the mag's empty. So that's kind of our limit.
Yeah, same as when you're doing it on pistols, when you're using like Derlin Spaces or something. There's a point, isn't there, where you can just get it to lock back, and then after that you've lost it. But I'm excited. People in the comments seem excited.
Yeah, so as far as we're concerned, there's not much support, and certainly on, with the Discords and stuff, the G5 gets a lot of hate just because it smashes itself to pieces. So the gun's kind of in negative territory at the moment, and what the first thing we're going to do is fix its biggest problem, which is the receiver cracking, and that's going to kind of get it back to baseline. So the gun will be like starting at 0 then, and then we're just going to go to town with all the same sort of upgrades that we've done with the KCO2, because now we've got years of experience with designing these parts, and I already know exactly what kind of style we want to go for with this. So if you look at like the picture you've got on the screen, you'll notice from a lot of our KCO2 parts, there's a lot of like natural curves to them. Everything's kind of got a curved sort of aesthetic, like the mag releases, the trigger, sort of the muzzle brake and stuff, and a bit of the rail as well. It's got that curve at the back. Everything's kind of got these natural flowing lines to it, and certainly with the underlevers too, everything's kind of curved. We want to move away from that for the G5. We want to go with a sort of more industrial look. If you've ever seen any of the films like Chappie or District 9, Elysium, those 3 films, the kind of vibe that you get from the guns in those films, that's kind of what we want to go for with the G5. We want it to be like a sort of industrial assault platform. That's really what I want to go for. I mean, it's a full auto gas gun for one thing, so we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I mean, this the pop metal bolt carrier that's in it, that weighs like 250 grams. Next on the list is an aluminium bolt carrier. Now, obviously, you're going to lose a bit of recoil for that, but your rate of fire is going to go up. Your gas efficiency is going to go up. So
yeah, and you look at any gun. Like I had an MWS, and you would not see. You'd go to a site with a few people that have them, and you've got half of them running the heaviest possible recoil set they can, and then you've got the other half running like ridiculously lightweight winter kits that have next to no recoil but are phenomenally fast. So I think you could tackle the market in both. If you did one that's lighter, great, people are going to like it. If you've got the option of doing something that's heavy enough to work with the parts that you're making to reinforce it, you'll have people that will buy that.
Yeah, so we're going to get a few people drooling here, because we've already done that sort of thing for the KCO2. We did the aluminium bolt carriers first, and then every year we do a batch of 50 heavyweight stainless steel bolt carriers. Now, the biggest thing that people enjoy about the G5 is the amount of recoil. So let's say some words. How about a flame blued stainless steel carrier for the G5?
I would say it needs to be a shade of pink.
Well, you can get an anodized aluminium one for that.
I think that's going to be
something that someone's just put up asking when we're going to do an underlever for it. I'm sorry, you can go swivel. We are not doing an underlever for a G5.
Oh yeah.
Don't listen to them, guys. I told these guys about doing it for making it non-blowback, and they said they'd never do it. And now look at you running around with your underlevers, your non-blowback. You'll do it. You'll get bored. I'm
not going to do a non-blowback G platform, which this just ridiculous. Like, at least it made sense on the KCO2.
Heresy's the same word you told me about the non-blowback KCO2. The same word.
Here we are.
There's heresy, and there's heresy on top of heresy, and
there it is. So while you're showing that off, making parts obviously brings us to this. What is this magnificent beauty?
Anthony can talk this one. This is his doing.
Sorry, I'm trying to sit. There we go. Right. There's some of my little pictures. That's our CNC. Obviously, I'm watching the Facebook stream, and I've got Aaron holding a gun up, and I'm waiting for the pictures to load. So with the delay, but yeah, we've gone in with someone, invested in a Haas VF2 SS, and then built a place for it in a unit, and it's ended up being about $100,000 investment all in all, so that we can start manufacturing our parts here, where we've got full accountability, quality control. We could prototype something within a day potentially if it's small enough and the program's easy enough to write.
Like a dog-ended thumb wheel for me.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, I need to get some. I tried in the UK, but they won't make it.
Yeah, but I mean, the very right-hand picture out of the four, that just shows our quality control. That's one of our sears, and off the top of my head, is it about a 5mm hole Aaron in there, and you can see it on the screen.
Yeah. So that's the right-hand most picture is a digital microscope that we had one of our trigger sears laying around, so we just thought we'd pop that on there for a photo. They're one of our most over-engineered parts. If there's a phrase within Rolls-Royce that you can say if you've made something a little bit over-engineered, you can say you've Rolls-Royced it, and we certainly did that on the trigger sears for the KCO2. They're made out of nitride hardened tool steel.
So they're made of the steel that you used to cut other steel.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah. I like it. I appreciate it.
EDM cut.
Yeah,
we have to get them EDM cut, and then it magnetizes them whilst they're doing it.
So they're wire spark erosion cut from tool steel, and then we have them nitride hardened afterwards. So it's a bit overkill. That's what you'd find in like competition level real steel rifles. A bit overkill for airsoft.
I just want to reply to a comment. Christopher Skeeter asked, SM, am I looking for something custom? Yeah, basically there's a project that I'm working on that no one's seen. A few people have seen it because they've got it, and I'm actually going to send you gents a picture because I want to get your opinion on something. But I need some thumb wheels that have a dog end, so where the last 2mm is smoothed off into a narrower rod, narrower than the thread of the actual wheel itself. I can get them in a size that's far too big and a size that's far too small, and then to get them in the amount that I need, they want a silly order of, I mean, if I ordered them and I sold that many, I'd be happy, but sometimes the minimum order on stuff is ridiculous, as you guys will probably know. Like, they're like, yeah, we can do it for this much, and you're like, oh, that's a really sensible price, well, thank you very much. And they're like, for 1,000 units per month, and you're like, I sell 20 a year, but thank you.
Yeah. We had that. We felt that pain with the underleavers.
Yeah. Oh, Christopher said he'll spin up a lathe and start making kit. I will send you a message. That'd be lovely. I only need 2 for testing, and then if I can get them, that'd be great.
Well, Chris has taken on the kind of customization side, the slack that we can't do because of what we're doing. So he does a lot for the KCO2.
He makes custom outer barrels and makes them on his lathe in his garage or shed. I can't remember. So if you'd like someone to slave for several hours over,
I mean, who doesn't? Am I right?
Pieces for you.
I'm asking for a VSR out barrel.
He'll do it for a reasonable price, and he'll make no money whatsoever from it.
We won't have that. We'll pay him a good price for it. Well, that's handy. This goes back to, if you're nice to the community, you come across some people that are just absolute gents. I mean, look at us. We obviously, you had a retail shop. I was working in a retail shop. We're both parts designers, and from day one, 4 years ago now, we've chatted. We've openly talked about factories, problems that we're both encountering with pricing, materials, things that we've had ideas about, and we're in the same market. And I mean, we're not really competing different platforms, but we've always managed to have a good relationship. And obviously, there's other designers that I talk to, and it's great because you end up like a random thing like this. Like, this guy might now help me out. He might now save me 3 weeks of chasing a company, and I might be able to get him some money, and he might come back with a part for me. That's brilliant. Whereas when you're an arsehole, no one's going to help you.
We help each other out because we've all started off the same. Now, he might be 7 years further along, but he might be the next thing. He might be the next Rogueworx. And to be able to help someone do that who's passionate about what they do, we're more than happy to. But we don't always take everything on. We had one guy who was developing a KCO2 drum mag, and it was just wasn't where it needed to be. And we wanted to help him, but we just couldn't put that time and money in. But we gave it an honest go. We looked at it and assessed it. We kind of working with Tanuki to help him with his adapters. We will work with anyone that needs that support because, to be honest, we didn't have that when we started. There wasn't this kind of independent market going, and then a load of us started around the same time, and like you, us, Tanuki, people like that, and we're all in the same boat, and there's no point stabbing each other in the back or anything like that because it's just not worth it. And we were all airsofters. We all gain from this. So helping each other out is a big thing that.
I remember when you. I remember it must have been a while ago, but I remember you phoned me up one day because you had a customs issue with the dread kits. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I was going to say a minute ago, the advice you gave us with like shipping and stuff, like which couriers to use and the paperwork involved and stuff. Like I didn't, an EORI number. I had no idea what one of those was. Yeah.
The irony is you have to register for it, but it's essentially your VAT number with 3 or 4 zeros on the end.
Yeah. We got one of those after talking to you, and you wouldn't believe the number of problems that solves for you if you put one of those ridiculous numbers on your paperwork.
What they don't tell you is you can get an ORI number even if you're not VAT registered. So if you're just a sole trader, not VAT registered,
that's what we got. Yeah.
You still get an ORI number, and people are just like, well, obviously, let's be honest, HMRC and the VAT man are never helpful when you want something, are they?
No. So what had happened with that time? Some of our dread kits had got seized in customs. We'd sent them by UPS.
I remember.
And after talking to you, I rang up UPS, and some very nice old lady on the phone was like, "Do you have an ORI number?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Would you like one?" I was like, "Yes." And so we went through the process on the phone, and like we weren't VAT registered, we weren't a limited company or anything at the time. And she was like, "I'm just going to enter you into the system. So this is your ORI number. Write it down." And it's the same one we've been using forever. I have no idea what it's for. It's like an international like tracking number or something. If they put that number into some database, they can see every parcel you've ever sent with that number on it.
Yeah, it's for imports and exports. They use it for things like if someone makes like a copyright claim against you, or for potentially stolen goods, imitations, for VAT. They use it to track a lot of things, but they really don't give you a helping hand. Like, obviously, I learned all this stuff through having to send my parts all over the world, and it's a nightmare. And there's very, very you'll get through to someone every now and then who will just be an absolute star. Like that lady for you, what did I get? I think my first batch of SRS wasps, they were supposed to come on a direct flight, and they didn't. They crossed through, I can't remember where, but they crossed through a country where they had some silly thing about if you're buying something that's manufactured from brass, there was some specific requirement or documentation you needed to have because of how they treat brass. It was something ridiculous that I'd never heard of. No one had heard of it. And they had like 800 wasps in like 14 boxes in some random country in Europe for like a month. And it was only after calling, I phoned someone and said, "What is this?" And they're like, "Oh, we just need to know if your factory's got this certification." All right. Got straight on WhatsApp, talk to my factory. They send me their ISO certification. I pass it on, gets released. I get them in 3 days. After like weeks of people just going, "Oh, well, it's really complicated." I know. Tell me, what do I need to do? Same with the ORI number. No one offered that advice to you. And then you phone up and then you go, "Yeah, I'll have one if that's going to fix my problems." And then there you go, done.
Yeah, we've had parcels go on some very interesting journeys when you follow the tracking. We've had one that was like just supposed to be going like 20 miles from one city to another in America, and it ended up doing like a 10,000-mile journey.
Went to Korea.
Yeah. It was at a tracking stage where it only had 20 miles left to go to its destination over in the States, and it accidentally got shipped to South Korea and then back again.
Yeah, I've had stuff. Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? When like sometimes though you get stuff like I'll order something, like I'll get a prototype and I'll speak to the factory, go through everything, give them the files, we'll have a quick chat, and this will be on like a Thursday, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we made it this morning," like Friday for them, and I'll be like, "Oh great," and then it's here like on Tuesday. I've ordered stuff from UK shops and I've waited weeks for it, so it is hit and miss.
We just stick our fingers in our ears when the factory tells us what the shipping costs are.
Yeah, well, that's gone up exponentially, isn't it?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like our last box that came, it was something like $800 shipping cost.
Yeah.
But as you said, it went from like China to the UK in 48 hours with no stops at customs on the way. So, for the convenience and lack of trouble that could have happened, I'll pay that. You know.
Yeah, you're kind of paying for the security, aren't you? Right. Well, we've overrun. We'll say we overrun. We didn't have to stop at a set time, but I haven't even looked at the questions yet because there's been just enough comments. So I'm going to look at the questions.
I've been keeping an eye on them, and mostly it's piss taking and banter. To be honest, from our
what on earth is
followers.
this? Talk to me about this nonsense.
This is some of the memes that are generated by our inner community, and if you're a member of Sostrich Gang, then you're like some of the inner circle for Rogueworx.
There we go. Hail Sostrich, hail, hail.
Here it comes. Oh my god.
So yeah, what is it?
Yeah, it started off just as a meme where people mix animals up with different things, and someone's been posting the same sausage picture on Instagram for the last like 3 years, I think it is, and it just came a life of its own, and it ended up being designed into a patch. It got to the point where I had my white collar MMA fight, and I had to have sausage on the back of my shorts because these guys were sponsoring me. Community sponsored me, and ended up being a top fundraiser for the whole event because of these sausage guys. So I ended up putting it on the back of my shorts. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
We've had it in our videos
as well.
Yeah, we've had it in our videos when we've done our shooting videos, and I had to keep stopping the camera while Aaron's changing guns or changing targets and hiding sausages around people to find and all sorts.
Yeah, when you told me about it, I was like, I don't see any connection from a sausage to Rogueworx.
No,
like
the community are absolute random weirdos that we absolutely love, and they're like family now. That it just a life of its own for no reason. It's so hard to explain, but everyone loves it.
Yeah, like for the second this stream started, your community was straight in with hello, looking forward to this, hail, hail.
Oh,
I mean, you're lucky, Aaron, because I've got that picture of you in a smoking jacket with a sausage heads drinking a fine whiskey with a KCO2, but I could not get it on my stream. The file name just comes up as some random .if thing, so I'm not sure if it's a GIF or not, because I was going to try and shove that up. But
yeah, yeah, some of the community generated images.
And what is LCD? Like, quite a few people keep asking, what is LCD?
No, we can't tell you what that is. That's a secret.
I feel left out, excluded, prejudiced,
okay.
even.
Oh, well, we'll find out now if the people that have they're all telling us to shut up on the chat.
Is it like the first rule of LCD is you don't talk about LCD?
No. All right. You know that you can tag people with different roles on Discord.
Yeah.
Sorry, they're killing me.
So, if you put the link into the Discord, I'll join it. Ironically, I'm sat here with Rogueworx, and we spoke the other day, and I'm still yet to see the Discord link.
I sent you it. I did send you the link.
But I don't believe you. But then I said I didn't believe you about the picture, but that picture was in fact in the Dropbox. So
oh my god!
I'll let you off.
Okay, so there are certain people that pop up in our Discord who are let's say less technically able than some of the others. You know, like.
Oh no! Oh look.
What have you done to the stream? What is that? Oh my god!
Oh dear! Oh, it's all right. I fixed it. I fixed it on the fly. We're good. Woo! That was lucky, wasn't it?
So
I clicked the Discord link, and obviously we're using Discord video, so it started opening stuff.
No, don't do that. Yeah, LCD stands for lowest common denominator.
Oh, okay.
For the people that aren't particularly good at installing parts into their KCO2 or doing work on their KCO2, it's like kind of a warning. So when you click on someone that.
This isn't our Discord channel. This
no. We didn't create this role. Somebody else came up with it.
Success has changed you.
We needed a way. too many people on the Discord were spending too much time explaining things to people, and they just weren't understanding. So we started handing out not us, the other moderators on the Discord started handing out the LCD roll for lowest common denominator. So people,
I mean, to be fair, I mean it's it's in a what's the word I'm looking for? Like in a polite way, isn't it? It's like, oh, this person needs this person is new to the group, sort of thing.
We have mentors and stuff on there as well.
Yeah.
So people that aren't admin can help and stuff like that, even if they're just signposting. So it's not all they actually are a really good community that support each other. And we've got an FAQ KCO2.
Oh yeah, we've not even talked about that. So
together by so many people.
Oh, I need to stop clicking off that. Stop sending me your community's just sending me stuff on Discord, and obviously I'm like, oh, something shiny. And every time I click it, it closes the stream.
Yeah. So even though Facebook's been in decline for airsoft stuff because the groups keep getting deleted, so the KCO2 owners group on Facebook is sort of like where this all started. Like that's been around since like 2011, I think it was. And there's a Google Doc in the pinned posts at the top of the KCO2 FAQ on Facebook that I think was started by someone who's been into KCO2 even before I got one, who came up with some of the original like parts. I think they were the first person to make a barrel stabilizer or something for the KCO2, and they started a Google Doc that was like 7 pages to begin with, and it's now 121 pages long, and it's just a guide of literally everything. It's like the KCO2 Bible, and we don't even refer to it that much anymore because it's got so long that there's just so much information in there. We often refer people to specific sections, but you know it's kind of gone beyond what you'd consider an FAQ anymore because there's so much info in there. You know, there's pictures, reviews, guides. So when people first join, we'll often just say like, go and look at this Google Doc and just spend a few hours just absorbing the information from it. And over the years, I have written most of it to this point now. Just you'll struggle to find anyone that knows more about a KCO2 than me. So, but there's even new stuff that we've not even added to the KCO2 just because we don't have time to spend time writing it into an article. So people that are really helpful in the community, we often give them editors' rights to the FAQ so that they can add their own little sections. There's a chap in South Korea who we gave sort of editors' rights on the FAQ recently, so he could start adding a section about this horrible new clone of the KCO2 that's come out recently. Have you heard of A1A?
No, I can't say I have.
No. So they made like a copy of the KCO2 basically and slightly changed a lot of the dimensions. So it's a gun that looks a bit like a KCO2. The mechanism works the same as the KCO2, but all the parts are slightly different. And people are buying.
Yeah, like some of the Well VSR clones, they look like a VSR, but the cylinders are smaller, the rings are just smaller. Like
exactly. So we're having a bit of a nightmare recently because we've bought a few of these guns just to look at them, and as soon as you start taking it apart, you're just like, this is trash. Like as soon as you get it out of the box, it's like plastics have that kind of horrible like Nerf gun feel to them, and for some reason all the metals weigh twice as much as even the standard KCO2 parts because it's basically like a block of zinc.
Yeah.
It's not like it's proper dirt quality Chinesium, like it's just like cheese. And they've slightly changed a lot of the dimensions for the internal parts, and so pretty much none of our parts, Rogueworx parts, fit in these guns, even though they're advertised as like a performance version of the KCO2 because they've got their own full auto selector and stuff, and they have a barrel takedown system, like where you can separate the barrel to put it in a backpack. The way they've done that is just barbaric. They twist the inner barrel inside the hop rubber as part of the takedown mechanism. It's monstrous.
I mean, why wouldn't you? It's not like you rely on that, for the gun to work and seal or anything important.
I bought one of these and it spent 6 months stuck in shipping, and when it eventually arrived, I was suppressing my gag reflex, just taking the gun apart. I was like, oh god, oh no. It's awful. So that's sort of the latest thing that the KCO2's community has been dealing with. This sort of lower quality clone that's now worming its way through the community, and people keep buying them and being like, "Oh, I've just bought this A1A Raptor. It's like amazing," or they think it's amazing. They're like, "What upgrade should I put in it first? What Rogueworx parts should we get?" And everyone's like, "Well, none of them. They don't fit."
We should make a Rogueworx bin that we can brand and sell, so then everyone who buys it can buy one of those. Just that's the only part that's going to work with it.
Maybe it is worth doing for one of you to do an actual sort of PSA video showing why this gun is so different. Because again, you don't have to say it shit. Like, I rarely say stuff shit. I'll just point out problems that things have. Like, if you don't want to come across negative. Although by the looks of your community, they'll just all be like, tell it it's shit, burn the clone, boo, drop it in a blender, Rogueworx shredder. I mean, I feel like your community would be fine if you just said it was shit.
Well, we started off trying to be nice about it. We did do some Facebook posts where we were showing how they'd moved where the hop screw was on their hop unit by 3 millimeters, which was just enough so it no longer lines up with any of our rails. It doesn't line up with the Genesis kit. They made their nozzle about 2 millimeters longer as well and moved their hop unit 2 millimeters further away. So now our nozzles don't seal up with it. The hop screw for the Genesis kit doesn't line up. We started off trying to be nice about it, like, oh yeah, I can see what they were trying to achieve with this design. You know, they put their own spin on it and stuff, and the message wasn't getting through to the community that, like, yeah, this is garbage. So now we have to kind of be a bit more blunt about it to try and put people off buying these guns. And you know, I am reluctant to shit on another company's efforts because they've clearly spent a lot of time redesigning the parts for this gun, and like, but the price should be a bit of a giveaway. I think the whole gun's only like $150 for a complete gas blowback rifle. You know, that should ring some warning bells straight away. So now we really are just having, whenever someone buys one, we're like, you're screwed. Just either send it back if you can. Go and buy a normal KCO2. It's literally lower quality than an original KCO2.
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciate it when I see new platforms coming out or when companies try to revisit existing platforms. But unfortunately, I can't remember. I think the only time that someone's come out with a platform where they've updated it and it has been an improvement to a degree, and I'll say this on a stream, it's got to be the SSG-10 for a VSR. Like, I've got one as a backup that literally just lives in a bag, and if I ever go to a site and someone's gun breaks, I literally throw it at them, like, use that. If my gun ever breaks, I'd probably use my pistol, but if it didn't, I'd use that. And for the price point, it is just a VSR that's just got enough updated bits in it to just be a solid performance. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination. It still can have work with it, but they did a good job for the price. Like, it's like 120 quid more than the TM VSR, and it's almost better in every way.
Yeah.
Whether you do or don't like Novrich or not, I have mixed opinions on different things. But
He does.
Yeah. I mean,
but
if
guys,
I was him, I'd have reached out to you by now, because I know what he's like. I've spoken to Chris a number of times about a number of projects and a number of ideas, and he's very clever, and he keeps an eye on the community, and he's always looking for new platforms. So I would not be surprised if he looks at the KCO2, sees your two handsome faces, sees this fucking sausage thing, and thinks, I'll see what that's about before I engage with these guys, and then reaches out to you.
Well, yeah, if that happens, then it's a bridge that we'll cross. But I'm afraid I am going to have to leave.
Yeah, because, I mean, we've done an hour and a half. There's no more questions. I think you guys have been addressing everything. I've put your link up in the video, so anyone watching the video who doesn't know who you are can click on the link, go straight to your website. This video will be on Facebook in Facebook's standard poop quality, probably within an hour or so, and it'll be up in...
Stop talking about poop and everyone's talking about crap. I've got to go if you get my hint. So I will speak to you later, guys.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, gentlemen from Rogueworx. And yeah, everyone, the stream will be online soon if you've missed it. So thank you very much, everyone. And thanks to you too, guys.
Thanks everyone for coming.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.